What's up? This is Kon Unmuted. I just wanted to jump on really quick to discuss a topic today really quick. Today's topic that I want to bring light to is change management, right? We all work in organizations that are constantly changing, right? Whether it's an engineering firm, a law firm, even the military, right? Any organization go through these changes, right? Because of today's business environment where things are constantly, changing, new technology. We have a new, startups company and stuff like that. Companies have to keep changing, right? They have to implement change to stay relevant, to be able to compete, right? And a lot of these companies don't that don't want to change end up getting left behind, right? A really good example is you can ask Nokia, right? You can ask Kodak. There's plenty of these companies out there. So what happens with those companies is they get you know they get they get a tunnel vision, right? They have a product that works well, the customer love it, but they don't put enough time into innovation, right? Trying to bring new products, or trying to you know kind of better the product that they have, right? They just stay there constantly, while there's new companies that are coming out, or new startups that are coming out, bringing out new technologies and competing with them. So in today's business environment, company must, it is a must. Companies must implement some sort of change. They must innovate, right? You can't stay with the status quo. You need to constantly be changing. So that's why I wanted to come on today and talk about change management. Even then, it's not only about companies, right? Also, as an individual, right, we need to implement change in our lives to keep moving forward, because times are changing. The way our parents or our grandparents lived, on the way they were thinking, it changed, right? Today, we can't stay stagnant. We need to constantly be changing, be evolving. If you work for a corporation, you will notice that a lot of companies are out there trying to figure out ways to beat out the competition, and the only way to be able to do that is by implementing change, changing the company culture, changing the processes, changing the system, innovating, and that's the only way you stay relevant. So, like I said, there's few companies out there, that kind of lost a market share of something that they were doing better than most, right? I think Toshiba is one of them. Although IBM is still relevant, but IBM was, one of the top companies in personal computers, right? And you can see that now we have all these name brand computers that are coming out, and and competing, uh, and taking the market share. So one of the change models, right? One of the change models that can be used to implement change within an organization is the Lewin's theory of change, right? The Lewin's theory of change, for me in particular, is really simple. It has three stages, which is cutthroat simple, right? But don't let that fool you. The simplicity of Lewin's theory of change model, although simple, is very very complex. And another thing about Lewin's theory of change model is that it's one of the pioneer, one of the one of the bases of the new style of change models, right? For organizations. So, like I said, it's pretty simple. Three stages, right? You have the first stage is unfreeze. The second stage is the change itself, where you implement the change, and then the third and last step is refreeze, right? Simple, right? But you have to understand that while you're doing that, there's nuances to it, right? For instance, the unfreeze phase. The unfreeze phase is just mean that there was a procedure, there was processes, um, there were culture that were ingrained within the company, right? Within the firm, whatever organization it is, right? So now you need to unfreeze the current culture. You unfreeze the current procedure. You unfreeze the current processes, right? So once you do that, that's when you can implement change, right? And the second phase is the change itself. That's this the stage where you actually implement the change. And lastly, in Lewin's theories of change, is refreeze. With any change that take place, you need to refreeze it. That means this new change becomes the norm of the company. Whether it's a culture, it becomes the norm. That's why you freeze it. You freeze it. Or if it's a processes, that's the new processes. So you freeze it, and that's the processes of the organization moving forward. So it's really simple as that. But like I said, it looks simple, three stages, not complex, but there's a lot to it, right? Um, Mostly the problem is, you know, unfreezing stage, right? When you are at the unfreezing stage where um you wanna implement a change, you wanna bring about a change to the current situation, um, you have to you have to convey that, right? You have to make sure that people understand that change is needed. You can't just change because you need to change, right? So there's a term: if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So to be able to tell people that we need a change in our organization, first you need to show them that we need to change or we are going to be left behind, right? We need to change because right now, in the direction that the company is going, we're not going to survive into the next decade if we don't change, right? You need to make sure that they understand that we need to change. You cannot just tell people that you need to change. It's difficult. You have to make sure they know that change is really needed. In that stage, one of the problem that can occur is you have an idea, right? You wanna bring a change within this organization, right? So one thing you realize is there's gonna be driving forces, and there's gonna be resisting forces, right? When there's two forces, that react to each other, if the reacting force is equal to the acting force, then the object doesn't move, right? The speed, acceleration equals zero, and there's no speed, then the object stays still. Changes the same way. So if you about to bring a change, you will have people who wants to change and people who don't want to change. So what happens is, if the people that want to change and the people that don't want to change, if their numbers are equal, then you get stuck, right? The change just stays there, right? It stays dormant for months, sometimes for years, because no one is giving, an inch about the change. So, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the driving forces, right, are greater than the resisting forces. Simple as that. Because even in the Lewin's model, it's called the Lewin's force field, right? Where if the resisting forces are equal to the driving forces, then we see ourselves at a equilibrium and no change takes place. So, but for the resisting forces, that's good. All they have to do is to be at an equilibrium so that the change might not take place, right? But for the driving forces, that's a loss because the equilibrium doesn't help them drive the change. So what they want to do is to make sure that they explain to the company, or they explain to all the stakeholders what the change is about, right? They need to communicate that. They need to make sure that this change that they're about to implement is good for the company. We need a change, or we're not gonna survive into the next decade, or the competition is gonna eat us alive. So, the people driving the change need to communicate that and win over the people resisting the change, and that's the only way change can take place. So once you go from the unfreezing phase, right? Once you get people to buy in into the new change, into the new direction, right? Once you get people to buy in, now you move to the most important stage of the change, which is the implementation of the change. The thing about that stage is don't let that stage fool you, because it is one of the most important stage, because you cannot draft, right, a plan about the change and just hand it out to people. It doesn't matter how detailed that plan is. You can't do that, right? That's when leadership is very, very important, right? So what the leader has to do is communicate the change. Make sure their people are trained well, right? To be able to perform the new change, right? Or the new behavior, right? They have to make sure that the team have the right skills, right? They are coached. They have all the tools needed to be able to perform the change. It's only then that they can actually implement the change. So leadership is very, very, very important, and communication and trust is very, very, very important. You cannot just, like there's a saying. I don't know if that applies, but you can take the horse to the river, but you cannot make the horse drink, right? I don't think that applies, but what I'm saying is you can draft your plan for change, right? And hand it over, right? Well, that's not going to take place if you don't have the right tools for to implement the change, if you don't have the right training, if you're not coaching, if you're not providing the tools to actually do the change, then you have a problem. Right? The change is going to fail, right? It won't be implemented. So that's one of the difficulties of the second phase, and leadership at that phase is very important. Last but not least, the last phase of Lewin's theory of change is the refreezing. Like any organization, when you're trying to implement a change, that's how it is. You unfreeze it, you make the change. The change now is the company culture, It's the company processes, it's the company procedures. So now you need to freeze those, you know, those cultures, processes, or process or systems. You need to make sure that moving forward, that's the direction that the company is moving toward. That's how we do things now, right? That's why you refreeze it. You refreeze it until you need to unfreeze it again to implement a change. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a circle, right? You keep going. You unfreeze, you make the change, you refreeze. You unfreeze, you make the change, you refreeze. So simple as that. But the thing about the refreeze phase is, the leadership must be careful because they have to lead in a way that the old habit, right, don't creep in and then mess with the new direction of the company. So what they need to do is to make sure during that phase of unfreezing, right, people are doing the right thing. They are adhering to the new um, company direction, right? And make sure that new direction is ingrained within the culture, within the processes before they can say, okay, now that we are here, you know, this is the new direction and everyone gets it and it's moving forward. So, that's the three stages in a nutshell in my explanation. Um, Lewin's models for dummies, you know. Um, so, but I want to say this. Um, this model is not just for businesses, right? I was in the military, and I can see the military leaders using that. Imagine a new commanding officer, right, taking over uh, a new uh, a new ship. They can literally use those three phases to implement change, to bring about a new culture within that ship, right? To make sure that the culture meet the demands of the new navy, right? The way things are being conducted today. So you can take that and then you can use it. It doesn't matter what kind of environment you are in. It doesn't matter what kind of business you are in. The Lewin's theories can be used. You just need to understand that uh, when you're implementing the change, be cognizant of the force field, right? Be know that understand that there's gonna be people wanting the change, the driving forces, and there's gonna be opposing forces, which are the resisting forces. So it's upon you as the leader to make sure that you move all the people resisting to make them understand why we are changing, right? Like like my company, I am a junior engineer right now, right? I am 100% sure that if I hear that the company's moving in a new direction in my company right now, I'm definitely gonna be one of those people that will be freaking out, and I might even be one of those people that will be a resisting force, right? The only way I can join the driving force is for my leadership, right? Because we are not in those board meetings, right? The employees, individual working for a company, whatever you are doing, you're not sitting in the board meetings, right? When the executives are talking, you're not there, right? All they have to do is to be honest with you, you know, and tell the employees the truth and communicate well. Because when it comes to change, usually it is people down below the chain that end up implementing it. So why hide the facts of the change and have us struggle later or have us resist to the change? Just come out, be upfront, tell us there's gonna be a change. We're gonna cut some people, or this is gonna happen. Yeah, people might be upset, but they will understand, right? They will be prepared to see what they can do out there, right? If I don't know I'm losing my job and lose my job the next day, then I wasn't prepared to look for a new job. So leadership executives, they have to be honest when there's a change. When they see a need to implement a change, they have to be honest, right? Tell the truth and communicate well with everyone. This was my 2 cents on organizational change. There's other theories or models that I'm going to talk about in the later episode. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.